Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen, the Get Some podcast. And my guest this week is...
This motherfucker Gary.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Gary Owen with the Get Some podcast. Let me start off with my schedule. This weekend, I am in West Nyack, New York at Levity Live. That's going to be December 8th through the 10th. And then December 21st through the 23rd, I'm in Denver, Colorado at the Denver Improv. And then December 29th, I'm in San Antonio, Texas at the Tobin Center. And as always, I end the year December 30th and 31st. And Dallas, Texas at the Texas Trust Theater. And let's just go into January. I mean, we're here. Might as well talk about it. January 4th through the 7th, I'm in Ontario, California at the Improv. January 13th, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida at the Moran Theater. January 14th, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at the Hard Rock. And then January 18th through the 21st, I'm back home in Cincinnati at the Funny Bone. And then January 26th through the 28th, I'm in Irvine, California at the Improv. First time at the Irvine, California Improv. And how I got that gig, I'm sorry I'm a little congested. I've been in 4 different cities this week and different climates, and it caught up with me a little bit. Not sick, just a little congested, if I sound funny. But the Irvine show I got at the end of January. It was last February. I went and saw Russell Peters. I just stopped by to say hi. I was in town. I found out he was in town. I went there. I did a guest set, and right after that, my agent called and goes, "I don't know what's going on with Gary Owen, but there's a love fest at Irvine." Because I guess after I got off stage, then people started inquiring a little bit. So that's how I got the gig. So thank you, Russell, for giving me that 5-minute guest spot that ended up giving me a weekend of work. You never know in this business. Last weekend, I was in Kansas City on Friday, working with some legends, Cedric The Entertainer, Eddie Griffin, D.L. Hughley, Felipe Esparza. I hosted. We was at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. It's such a big venue, and we were right in the middle. We were in, it's an arena, and our stage is in the middle. So people were sitting all around us. In most comedy shows, 95% of comedy shows, you're going to have a stage, and the audience is right in front of you. This one was different because we were in the middle. Like Phoenix has I think the Celebrity Theater, you're in the middle. I'm sure there's other ones where you're in the round, but it's cool, but it's different. Just because you're kind of looking all around you when you perform. But I swear, man, Eddie's great, D.L. Hughley's great, Felipe Esparza's great, but man, I forget how people react to Cedric the Entertainer. I mean, I don't work with him a lot, but when I do work with him, I had him on my New Year's Eve show 2 years ago in Dallas. It's just the initial reaction when he walks on stage, people love Cedric. And then, because everyone gets great ovations. Eddie got a great ovation because it's his hometown. And December 1st was Eddie Griffin Day, which was cool to see. And he kind of helped put the show together, Eddie did. DL, always amazing. And then when Cedric got announced, the energy level just kind of shifts a little bit. You could tell. And that's why he's Cedric the Entertainer. But I noticed that. I was like, man, I forget when I bring him on stage because the last couple times I worked with Cedric, I hosted. And I was like, whoa, yeah, I forgot. King of Comedy. There's just levels. And he's at one of the top levels in this business. And then Saturday and Sunday last week, I was in Atlanta at the Atlanta Comedy Theater. And then I swear, there's some clubs I like working because I get to talk to people that I don't normally get to talk to. And Gary Abdul is the manager of Atlanta Comedy Theater. And I had spoke about him months ago. He helped discover Matt Rife before nobody knew who Matt Rife was. Just hilarious. Country Wayne, He helped. Ricky Smiley started to pop. Gary was right there. Earthquake, if we want to go way back. I love doing this club because I love Gary coming in the green room and we just talk shop the whole time. And he told me a very cool story about Matt Rife because, Gary's one of them guys like it seems like he gets guys to a certain level and then he kind of lets them go, almost like a dove. Like Gary Abdul's like, here, go fly, I always wonder like, does he ever feel some kind of way because he's not managing these people anymore now that they have quote unquote popped and blown up, and then financially their money went up? But Gary seems pretty cool with everything. Like he almost like he gets the business. He understands that it's all business. It's never personal. And, he's really, really taken Matt, it's hard to say, like, he had Matt in the beginning, and then Matt just kind of like, just in the last year took off. But he wasn't really managing Matt Rife it's been years. But he was telling me how Gary somehow got him really good with Chappelle during COVID with the Chappelle's summer camp in Yellow Springs. And he said he made the connection between Matt and Dave and got Matt on, not himself, but helped get Matt on the summer show in Yellow Springs last year. And then so he said he was at one of at the show in Yellow Springs. I'm sorry if this story seems a little choppy. I just don't want to. I don't want to indulge the story, and I don't want to add stuff on to make it better. I want to try to tell it exactly how Gary told it to me. But he said he was, he called Matt. Matt had a weekend off, and he called him and said, "Hey, Dave is at Madison Square Garden for like 4 shows. You should come to New York if you're off, just to be around it and hang out with Dave and get to know him and stuff." So Matt did, and of course Dave put him on stage and everything like that. And then Dave invited him to his summer camp. And I don't know if the Madison Square Garden was before or after summer camp, but both of it was around the same time frame. And he said when he was at summer camp in Yellow Springs, Matt was just standing outside like at the end of Dave's driveway. And Gary walked out there, and Matt was like, he goes, "Hey, man, I got something to say to you. And Gary thought he did something wrong. He was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And he goes, "Hey, man, you helped me out in the beginning, and I just want to show you something." And Gary pulled out his phone and showed me. And Matt bought him like I don't know if it's one of a kind or exclusive Rolex. And he had it in the box. Rolex is an amazing watch, but it's the presentation too. It's that Rolex box that sets it off. When you're getting a Rolex, that just like amps it up a bit. But he said Matt gave him the box and had the Rolex in it, and it was a thank you, basically, for looking out for him in the beginning. So I thought that was a cool story, and I hope Gary's okay with me sharing it. But he never wore the Rolex all weekend. I said, "Where's the watch?" He goes, "Are you crazy?" He goes, "I ain't getting robbed." He sits in the safe in the house. So it was just a cool story to hear about. You got those people in your life that come in early in your career, and then when you pop, it's nice to hear that people don't forget about those people that helped them out in the beginning. So, yeah, I always like talking to Gary. He's got stories about comedian after comedian, and he always like gives me insight on what I'm doing right and what I should be doing to help boost my career. And one thing we both agreed upon was, social media is where it's at right now. And I don't mean just sketches, and I don't mean just Instagram or something. It's like across the board. That's why I come and do a podcast every week, because it keeps my face out there, and 2, that when you do a podcast on your own like I'm doing. And I was talking to another person about podcasting literally right before I started this episode, and we was talking about how people they'll do a podcast for like 1 or 2 episodes, and then they stop, or they don't stay consistent with it, And we're in an age now, and it's like you do the podcast. And, yeah, most of my podcast episodes are they're in between like 40 and 50 minutes. To me, that's a sweet spot where I can talk, and I don't think people are tired of me talking because I do this by myself 90% of the time. But it's the clips. You get the podcast, but then you cut up the clips. And it's funny because some of the clips will really pop on like TikTok, or another clip will pop on Instagram or Facebook. And then you can get the whole show in totality also. But it's really the clips that, like, to me, people talk about and get their attention. I even saw somebody make a comment like, I've been looking for Gary stand-up for a while. I just came across him. It seems like he's just been podcasting lately. I go, no. Yeah, I podcast and I post a lot of clips, but I post stand-up clips, but I post more podcast clips because, I'm doing stand-up every week. I can't post all my stand-up clips. Then when people come see me, they'll know all my jokes. So I got to be very selective with the stand-up clips that I post. But, yeah, when I was talking to Gary about it, he was just like, he was telling me like some comedians, I'm not going to name names, but some comedians that used to sell a lot of tickets that aren't selling tickets anymore because they don't have a social media presence, and they're still living off like old movies or old stand-up specials. And he said, you got to stay relevant, man. So you got to, and I'll just say this to any comedians out there, whether you're old, new, in the middle of the road, keep posting clips, and post clips of your stand-up, especially if you're a stand-up. You got to post some stand-up every now and then, at least a couple clips a month. And then the sketches, and if you're podcast. And if something happens, man, just get on your phone and talk about it, like a current event or anything. Just give your take. It's not about dirt and slanging things. Everybody thinks like if you talk about people, it's got to be negative. It really doesn't have to be. You can just give your input on stuff, and that's it. So yeah, it's cool to talk to Gary about that stuff. And then afterwards, I stayed an extra day in Atlanta, and I went to the Monday night game of the Bengals in Jacksonville. And I think that's where I got the sniffles, because that's when the climate changed. I mean, Kansas City was cold. Atlanta was all over the place, by the way. Atlanta had bipolar weather this weekend. And then I went from Atlanta to Jacksonville, but I flew with Lil Duval. Lil Duval's got his own little private plane, and it's tiny. Lil Duval's tiny, and his private plane's tiny. And it got cold on that plane, and it got hot. And I don't know why, because the heater was on at some point, and then when you get about, and we don't go 35,000 feet, obviously. It's a small plane. He goes about 12, 13,000 feet up in the air. But it's you're cold up there. And then we played a joke, cat's out the bag. He didn't leave me. I know a lot of you think we did that thing on Instagram. We were after the game. We were getting ready to board, and I said, "Yo, let's act like you left me." I don't know if Duval thought of it or I thought of it, but either way, we said. And Duval's very smart when it comes to social media posts. So he was like, "Yo, you film it. We can't get somebody else to film it, because if somebody else films it, it's gonna look like it was a sketch, and we're gonna get people to really think you left me, and people really think that dude left me." So what we did when we landed in Atlanta, Duval has a hangar. So we landed at this private airport, but then his pilot was flying the plane to his own hangar and to park it, basically. And so once we landed in Atlanta, that's when we shot the sketch, and I followed him into the plane, and he locked me out. And then since his pilot had to take off, it was Duval's idea. He goes, "Get the plane leaving." So I got the plane pulling off. I got it flying into the air. And then it was great because I didn't realize there was going to be an echo at this private tarmac. We were the only ones there. And so when I said hello, it just went hello, 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 hello. And then I told him, the next morning I'm gonna bake another post like I hitchhiked basically a ride home to Atlanta, and I just got back and I had the same outfit on. So we sold it, baby. We sold it. Just know if I usually have a beef with somebody, it's fake. We might sell it as real, but most of it is fake. I had a fake one, Michael Blackson, years ago. I've had beefs with Duval in the past. We did a charity event for DeMarcus Cousins about 6-7 years ago, and we had a fake beef on that one. So one thing on me and Duval, we'll commit. We'll keep beef going for days, and you won't know about it. But he still has to wear the Bengal jersey for 3 days straight. So I sent him a Joe Burrow jersey, and he'll be wearing it this week before he's going Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So that was part of the bet. I had to wear a Jacksonville jersey. This is how confident they were. He had the people in Jacksonville print me up a jersey. They thought we didn't stand a chance. And I honestly didn't know if the Bengals are going to win or not, so I didn't really bring a jersey with me to give to Duval. And all of a sudden, we just balled out and won the game. And so, yeah, I had to mail him the jersey, and it's so big, it's going to go on to like his ankles. It's like a 2XL. You know, Duval's like an extra small. So, but going back to what I was talking about earlier, Gary Abdul, when I was talking to Lil Duval, we was talking about just the state of comedy and people in it. And some people, you get to talk to them, man. I mean, it's just, we hear about all the comedian beefs, but sometimes it's good just to catch up with guys and Duval gets life. Not so much stand up. He just gets life in general. And he was talking to me like, I said, yeah, wear it on stage at your next show. He goes, dude, I ain't got another show till after the new year. I said, what? You took the month of December off? He goes, yeah. He said, I never just want it to be, I never wanted my life to just be like, I got to work. He goes, I just want to do stand up and then at some point slow it down. He's making all the right moves financially. He was telling me how he invests in certain things and buys certain things. And I was just like, I'm just a sponge listening. And then I was telling him, yeah. I'm trying to set myself up. I was telling him some investments I've made and things like that. And I said, well, I got alimony for a little bit, so I got to pay that. I said, once that stops, then I can probably slow down tremendously. But as of now, I gotta work, pay this alimony. So, but it was funny because as I'm talking to him about, we're just talking investments and the state of stand-up and things like that. And that's when we realized, wow, there's not a lot of us out there that are like selling tickets and making a decent amount of money. And he said, yeah, people just think it's like Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle. People don't realize there's another tier where kind of me and him are at. And I would say D-Ray's in that tier, Michael Blackson, Deion Cole and stuff. And he was like, they go, that we're doing really well and we're all selling good amount of tickets on our own. But people look at us like they don't realize the money we can generate on the road and the money you can pull out of comedy clubs. And he was just saying like, there's not a lot of us. You think there is, but there really isn't. And I was like, man, that's crazy because we were talking about football teams and how there's only 32 starting NFL quarterbacks and his quarterback got hurt. That's what made us bring up the conversation. And I was like, man, if you think about it, there's not a lot of us as far as stand-ups. And I was like, that can sell a decent amount of tickets. And he was like, he goes, trust, man, I get it. And then, of course, we brought up how important is the social media stuff. And Duval's more of an entertainer nowadays. He's not just stand-up, but he's got the music thing going too. But, yeah, it was just cool to talk to him. So that got me on the topic of I have a flip house, a.k.a. a trap house in Atlanta. So when I was home, when I was in Atlanta last weekend, the plan was to tear the house down last weekend, but we got to get some permits and things like that. And so we're going to tear it down. I think December 17th is the day, or the 16th or 17th. I don't know if I should have told that date because I'll tell you why in a second. So I hadn't really seen the house yet. And so how I came across this flip house, it's it's funny how it all came about. So I was supposed to go 50-50 on it with a friend of mine. And the buddy of mine, he found the house. He told me it was I guess I can give the numbers out. He told me it was it's going to be around $110,000 for this house. He said, but I think we could flip it. We could really build it up and make it good, and we could really make a decent profit on it because it's in an area that's really getting gentrified right now. and it's right across the street from a park. It's right in front of a school. Like where it sits on a corner, it sets the neighborhood off. And even it's the first time I really saw the neighborhood when I went this weekend. It's one of those neighborhoods like there's a couple houses that are like, oh, and then all of a sudden you see what the neighborhood's headed towards. You'll see there's already people in there flipping houses and tearing it down and building stuff up. So we go to my flip. Well, here's what happened. So I was supposed to go 50-50 with a buddy of mine. And so we put the bid in. You got to put like the 10% down. So we got to put the $10,000 down as earnest money. So I put the earnest money down, and I did. And then I got the house. And then when it came time to get the house, I told my friend, I said, all right, you send your half. I'll send, at this point, I should owe $45,000. And then he was like, he didn't have it, basically. And I go, what? He said, he didn't have it. I'm like, oh, my God, dude. The only reason I picked Atlanta is because he lived there. And I thought, this is an easy thing to do. So I called the realtor that helped find us the house. And I said, what are my options here? Because now I'm on the hook for this thing. And she goes, well, the earnest money you're not getting back. So either you lose $10,000 or you send another $100,000 and the house is yours. And the way the realtor broke it down to me was, look, Gary, if you don't do nothing to this house, it just sits. It could be 2 or 3 years, but people are going to start putting bids in and want to sell this house, or want to buy this house as property. The property value is going to go up. She said, so literally, if you got a couple years to wait, you don't have to do nothing, and you'll make your money back. Whether how much, I don't know. But she goes, you're definitely going to make your money back on this house, just location alone. I said, oh, okay. Wasn't happy about it. But I said, let me just lock it in. So I looked at it almost like a bank. It was like a bank loan investment. I was like, all right, instead of having my money just sit in the bank, I'm going to have it sit on this, I call it my trap house. So I got it. It's mine. And then I see Desi Banks flipping houses. So what I did, I saw when Desi was flipping houses, or he flipped a house. I called him. I said, who flips your house? He got me in touch with this dude, Gene Johnson. And now Gene's been a godsend. We partnered up on this house, and he's the one that said, look, we're going to do this together. I got the expertise. You have the property. And so we're going to tear it down, and we're going to turn it into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's going to be amazing. And I can't wait. We're going to chronicle the whole process of tearing it down from the ground up. But we went there Sunday and met Gene and his business partner, and we went to go walk through the house. So we get there, and the front windows broke out. And I was like, huh. And I go, was that here last time you guys was here? They was like, no. And I go, weird. We go in the house. We got squatters. They're not there when we walk in the house, but they had brought in a full mattress. Big. They was like, this wasn't here like 2-3 weeks ago. And so these squatters, or squatter, I think it was a female. It was a female or a transgender. It was one or the other. But they had put the mattress in. They had like a heater thing, like a portable heater to heat up food. They had a portable heater to keep them warm. There was lipstick. There was deodorant, toilet paper. There's nowhere in the water, but they had toilet paper. And they had a bag. It was a bunch of raggedy clothes, dirty clothes. Everything was dirty, by the way, too. Don't think this was clean. And it was just dirty. And they had like boarded up the bedroom part to keep the they put a sheet up and a board from the back kitchen, and then even when you walk in the house, they have boarded up where the bed was, even though it's probably where the living room should be, I guess. And it was funny because this is all new to me. I've never done this, and squatters and homeless squatters, drug addict squatters, I don't know. So even before we walked in, Gene and his partner was like, hey, man, you got your pistol? And he's like, no, I ain't bringing it. He goes, dang. And I was like, okay. And I asked them, I said, is this normal? They said, it happens. They go, dude, I guess Gene's been doing this for so long. And he was like, man, I've been doing this so long, Gary. I've seen everything. We found a dead body. We found people just straight up living. You know, we found drug addicts. We ate pets. We found like we walked in the house and dogs was in there. Radio attack. I wouldn't say pets, but attack dogs. But he said we've had everything. So it was just funny because you could tell they've done this before. The way the guy had the flashlight out, he was pounding on every room, walking in. You know, it wasn't like hello. They're like, we here. So if the squatter happens to come across the podcast, you don't have a lot of time left because we're gonna knock it down. So yeah, but I put it on my Instagram of how we walked in and all of a sudden there was a squatter. Yeah, that was new. That was new to me. So I'm excited though. I'm excited to go through this process and see what happens with the flip house, or AKA the trap house. So we'll see what happens. And then, last week when I was talking about, what the hell was I talking about? I was talking about, hold on a second. Why is one blank? Oh, I was talking about things that couldn't go wrong in your career. I told a couple personal stories about things that I've gone through that career could have went left in some ways. And then after talking with Gary Abdul and then talking with Duval and stuff, we was talking about cancel culture basically, and how it's real but it's not real. It's like I always say cancel culture is a bunch of people that were never going to pay to see you anyways get mad at a joke and they try to ruin your whole career. And when I was talking to Gary Abdul about it, he had brought up Matt Rife. And I guess in his Netflix special, his first joke was about domestic violence. And, and Matt's, really blew up because, one, he's funny, but two, he's a good-looking guy. So he got all these young girls and they went nuts over him. And I was telling Gary, I said, yeah, I somehow, when people say something bad about you, people send it to you. So I guess there was a podcast. Tom Segura and Matt Rife was on the Tom Segura's podcast, and he said, yeah, when he first started, people was like, man, you're like the next Gary Owen. And Matt Rife was like, I don't really pigeonhole like that. He goes, Gary's great. He goes, but I don't want to just be like the white guy doing black stuff. He said, and I understood what he said. He wasn't throwing me under the bus or anything. I understood where he was coming from. And then there was some girl, and she was going in on Matt Rife, and she was like, she goes, Matt Rife did a podcast right when he's starting to hit, and he talked about how he didn't want to be pigeonholed like Gary Owen. And then she goes like this, she goes, and if you know who Gary Owen is, he's old. He's been around forever. He's like really old. I was like, okay, chick, can we slow down on the really old stuff? And then she said, so Matt Rife didn't want to be pigeonholed with that. And then he gets on TikTok, does a joke. All the young girls like him. And his first joke on his Netflix special is the domestic violence joke. So now he doesn't want to be pigeonholed as the good-looking comedian. So he doesn't want to be pigeonholed as the white guy doing black stuff. And then she brought up Wildin' Out, how a lot of times on Wildin' Out he was the only white guy. And now she goes, he's canceling himself. Every time people say this is going to be your fan base, he goes against it. And Gary, I said I saw that, and I told Gary Abdul that. Oh, by the way, people always say I don't have backdrop, and I need to get it more stuff. So I was just gonna put this up as like I don't know. It's not a sponsor, but it gives a little life back there. I gotta get something back here. Honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna put up there. But, anyways, that was a commercial break for ADHD. So I was telling Gary about that interview that I saw. And then he said, yeah. He said when all those people came after Matt, I guess Dave was telling Matt Rife, don't apologize about the joke. And then Matt made the post where he said, to all the people that were offended by my special, here's a link to my apology. And it was like a special needs helmet. It's kind of creative. But that reminded me, I was telling Gary Abdul that back in 2016, the Special Olympics people and all that, they came after me over a joke. And it still bothers me to this day because this was nuts. So I did it back in 2013. I did a special called I Agree With Myself. And you can look it up. I think it's on Hulu. It was on Showtime originally when it aired. And I did a joke on my special needs cousin. And I do have a special needs cousin. And in my act, I call her Tina. That's not her real name. I'm not going to say her real name to protect her, but I do have a special needs cousin. And I just told I'm not going to get into the joke, but I told a story about her, a joke about her. And it was funny. And the gist of the joke is basically she caught my cousin caught a STD. So I went to a family function, and keep in mind, I'm embellishing these stories. Like a lot of when comedians, we tell the truth and we tell our life, but we add like little HGH and steroids on it to make it funnier. So that's what I was doing with this story. So the real story was there was something going on with my cousin, and it was sexually related, and I'm not going to get into it. But anyways, I digress. So in my special, I talked about a guy, the cousin Tina, and I said she got an STD, and the whole family all day was like, Tina got an STD. Tina got an STD. And I was going, Tina's fucking? That was my thing with the whole thing. I was like, I know. And then I found out it was another special needs dude that she got the STD from. I said, oh, they getting it in. And then I did a joke about how did he ask her out? What was it like in bed? Anyways, but I said the R word, the word you're not supposed to say, RETARDED. I don't want people coming after me in this podcast. But it was crazy because I guess this guy that is special needs, he saw my special and he wrote an article on it, and he really was like attacking me in the article. And I was like, but he wrote the article in 2016. And I was like, the special was in 2013. I get 3 years late. This special's been out there. They came after me so it was almost ridiculous, the stuff they were coming after me for, and they wanted me to take my joke off the air. They wanted me to issue a public apology. Also, so what ended up happening, of course, as comedians, like, I ain't apologizing for nothing. I ain't doing that. I got my reality show getting ready to come out. So they were coming after, like, the sponsors. They were like McDonald's. Anybody that has anything to do with Special Olympics that was going to advertise on my reality show, they were, like, threatening to go after them to make them pull out, not to advertise on my show. And I could have lost my TV show because of it. And I was like, all this over a joke that's 3 years old? And then, so I had to fly to D.C., meet with these special needs people and their advocates. And I just remember they were trying to tell me how to tell my jokes. They wanted me to sign paperwork to say I will never use the R word on stage again or things like that. And I go, I'm not signing nothing. I said, what I will do is I'll take your feelings into consideration. I said, but you're telling me I can't talk about my own family is what you're doing. Because I didn't talk about, like, I wasn't going in on everybody. Here's my thing. I wasn't coming after anybody with malicious intent. I was just telling a story about my cousin. And it got so out of hand, and I just couldn't believe it. And then people that would leave messages on social media and things like that, I don't ever take that stuff serious. But when I read them, I'm like, oh, I was trying to figure out where's all the anger coming from. And there were some actors, there were some athletes coming after me. Anybody that has a relative, and especially a child that has special needs, they were the ones, the parents of special needs kids. And it hit me why they're upset. In the middle of all this, it hit me why they're upset because somebody made a comment and they said, I'm going to go to hell. And I'll never forget it. They said, I'm going to go to hell for basically talking about special needs people. And then it hit me in the middle of that comment when I wanted to respond, I want to be mad. I was like, that comment doesn't make any sense. Because if you're telling me I'm going to go to hell for talking about special needs people, who made them special needs? Think about it. So, God made them that way. But if I talk about them, I'm the one going to hell? Who are you really mad at? And that's when it hit me. They're not mad at me. They don't know where to direct their anger. So they can't be mad at God because you want to go to heaven, even though if you believe God's the all-powerful, if God made special needs people, he can fix it too. He can make them regular at any point. And I was just like, so what they're mad at, they don't know where to direct their anger. So anybody that talks about special needs people, they're going to direct their anger towards them. So it came to me for a couple months. And I was like, oh, because I almost like, I got it. I never got mad because I almost got it halfway through this process because I was going, okay, if you're a husband and wife and you've always wanted to have kids and you have a kid and the kid happens to be special needs, you're going to love them the same, but your stress level now goes up because I think the fear is when you pass away, what's going to happen to my kid? And you could take, and it's not an 18-year deal like regular. I mean, I don't want to say regular, but most parents, you have a kid, and the thing is when they hit 18, they're adults, and then you kind of let them go. When you have a special needs kid, you're never letting it go. Most of them are never going to live on their own, and you're going to be, it's a lifelong responsibility as opposed to, I'm talking about responsibility where they're relying on you for 90% of the stuff, as opposed to anybody else. It's like you're responsible for them until they're 18, and then they can kind of be responsible for themselves. So, and can you imagine like if you live your whole life right, you do nothing wrong, you do everything right. You go to school, maybe you go to college, you get a good job, you meet a woman, you get married, and then you decide to have kids, and kid comes out special needs, and you're like, what? Not why did this happen to me, but what did I do? What did I do wrong and everything? And you can't blame God. So you got to blame anybody that talks about him. So that's why I think the anger was so like just out of control when it was coming towards me. I was like, yo, just talk to me. Don't just go attacking me and going off and trying to cancel my whole life because of it. But I almost like I empathize because I go, okay, that's what they're mad at. And nobody's ever going to probably admit to it. But I mean, think about what I'm saying here though, for real. It hit me when that lady sent me that comment that I'm going to hell. I was like, oh, honestly, that makes no sense because of what I just said. If I go to hell for talking about a special needs person, for calling them the R word, I mean, what's that say about God? God can fix it right now. He can get rid of all the special needs people and don't have to make any more special needs kids. So you don't know where to direct your anger, so you're going to bring it towards me. So, yeah, it ended up, what ended up happening was I realized it was like a witch hunt because I met with these advocates, these special needs people, and we came to a resolution that I would take their feelings into consideration. I issued an apology through a publicist. So that's not really it's not a heartfelt apology. It was like everything was manufactured. The rage was manufactured. The meeting was manufactured, and my apology was manufactured. None of it was genuine. Because they just wanted, almost like people want to stick their chest out. Like, yeah, we stood up for you. We got you as far as special needs people. And I go, they don't need you to stand up for them. They can stand up for themselves. And I told that to them in the meeting. I said, look, you guys are the problem. Because I had to meet with 4 different special needs people, and the people, they had these advocates behind them. I said, you guys are the problem because you keep telling them they're less than. And you keep telling them, because I asked them, what's funny? Tell me what's funny. Because in comedy, everything's fair game. You could talk about me. I could talk about you. And like I said, as long as no malicious intent, go for it. And in case in point, I'm with Lil Duval over the weekend. He almost died last year in a car accident. Dude, we was texting and going at each other the whole time. I had knee surgery. He had a ATV accident where he almost died. And I even, right after it happened, I go, he's always trying to top me. Because I was supposed to have my knee surgery, and he was posted some pictures of him, like, barely making it out of the Bahamas alive. So, you know, that's what we do. We're stand-ups. But I said, if I don't talk about you, it's saying I feel sorry for you, and I feel like you're less than. If I do talk about you, you're equal. We're the same. So I look at it like we're the same. So I can talk about you. You can talk about me. I don't look down on you. We're all the same. So it ended up, Showtime ended up taking that joke off my special. And I don't think people even realize it. I'd already been out there like 3 or 4 years. They took it off of Showtime, but it's out there on different platforms. But and Showtime told me it's up to you, Gary. And I just didn't want to lose my TV show. So I was just like, all right, you know, I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. So it reminded me of that when Gary Abdul was talking about Matt Rife and everything he went through with his recent Netflix special, and then he issued that fake apology. And let me tell you something. If you see anybody on an entertainment or anything, politics or anything, and they issue an apology through a publicist, it's not genuine. I'm telling you. The publicist writes that up. And then they send it to the entertainer, the athlete, and it's all for show. It's all just, like I said, it's not genuine. And what it got me about these advocates that came after me, and I'm not lying, the week after I met with them in D.C., they went after another comedian. I said, oh, this is just a witch hunt. They're going to go for one comedian, and they're going to search the internet for any comedian that says the R word, and then they're going to go after them. And it's just a cycle. It's a never-ending cycle of trying to cancel. And the funny part is, I'm not going to say names because I don't want to get any other comics in the middle of this. I don't want people looking up their names. But 2 of the comics that I've seen them go after, blown the fuck up since 2016. 2 of them. And I know of 4 that they've gone after. And 2 have blown all the way up since 2016 when all this happened with me. So, yeah, I think thanks to guys like Andrew Schultz and other comedians, we're starting to push back on the cancel culture. People want to hear it because that's why you go to comedy clubs. You want to hear the uncomfortable and make it comfortable. All right? All right, so again, this weekend I'm at Levity Live in West Nyack, New York. And then Denver, coming your way December 21st to the 23rd. San Antonio, the Tobin Center. That's December 29th and December 30th and 31st. I'm in Dallas, Texas at the Texas Trust Theater. And, yeah, thank you, Bengals, for making this a great week. I can watch ESPN all week now. Got to beat the Colts. Then we got the Vikings. And then we got a shot, baby. We're still in this. We're still in it. All right, Tyler Boyd, no more passes. All right, that's just between me and you. All right, brother. All right, guys, I will see you next week on the Gary Owen Get Some podcast.